Okay, what's up everybody? The point of this video is I've been wanting to do an update video on the big rig and talk about the things that I like about it still, some things that I don't like about it, and then also kind of go through some tips and tricks as far as how I set mine up for kayak catfishing specifically. So this is a 2014 big rig. I know it's kind of older, a little bit outdated, but I know that the hull and things like that haven't changed much. So just a kind of an update on it. I'm still in love with it. It still sucks dragging it around out of the water. It's still stable as hell on the water. It's like I said in my other video, it's it'll push you straight perpendicular to the wind. You just got to learn how to kind of fish with the weather and kind of what the wind is doing. A lot of guys I know use a C-tug still. I personally don't use a C-tug that often. I mean, if it's a really long haul, I will. But typically what I do is I'll just suck it up and I'll just drag it. So yeah, so far I've caught a handful of bigger fish out of this boat, and it's working great. Eventually I will want to upgrade to some sort of a pedal drive system. I'm not sure when. I would love if Jackson would come out with a big rig with a pedal drive system, but we'll see what happens. We'll go through my kayak and I'll talk about how I set my kayak up now in comparison to how I may have done it before, and lessons learned, things like that. Alright, so front to back here. Up front, I still have the exact same battery box as I've used before. There's just a 12 volt, 18 amp hour battery rigged into this. It will power my fish finder for multiple days, which I'm very happy with. I don't really plan on changing that at all. Going through here, still using the Bending Branches Angler Ace. No complaints with that at all. That's been good to me. So when I'm filming at night, a big issue I had was the GoPros are not great at night, and I saw a build online for this. And if you guys want, I can make another video kind of talking about how I did this, but I kind of modified it a little bit. But this is set up to where, I can keep this GoPro on for hours and hours and hours. This light is plenty for what I need at night. I've got it hooked up to a battery bank, which I can charge my phone or charge my other GoPro, as well as keeping this powered on. So if you guys want, I can do a more detailed look at that. I'm currently running a Garmin fish finder that is extremely dirty because it's in a kayak. This is the 73 SV, I believe. It's a side view one, 7-inch. So I've been very happy with that. Still using the Driftmaster rod holders. These are the 3/8 inch, which I'm still happy with, but I might eventually upgrade to a 1/2 inch just to have a little bit more room to get rods in and out. As far as my rod and reels go, I'm still using the Warrior Cat mediums as well as the heavy actions. I'm trying to figure out what I like more right now for the kayak. I'm using Abu Garcia big game reels, and typically have it rigged up with 65-pound braid and 65-pound fluorocarbon leaders. So my seat configuration is, I kind of keep everything under. I try to minimize the amount of boxes that I carry. So I always have a couple boxes. One of them is usually bass stuff. The other one is usually catfishing stuff. And then I always have a little pouch with me here, and I keep all my weights in that. I keep my leader material off the side of my seat. That works great. I'm just running the stock rod holders here that come with the big rig. I always have a fish grips clipped onto the side of the seat, always handy and ready to go. And then as far as bait goes, I typically am either using cut bait or live bait. If I'm using live bait, I simply have a 5-gallon bucket in the back that with an aerator, and that's pretty much it. Okay, as far as my transducer goes, I've got it hardwired in here just using the ram arm. And then I don't know if you can see, but I think they're the Hobie through hull connectors that go into my hull and go inside and back up. My anchor system, very simple. I've just got the dog bone anchor cleat, ran it all the way back just using the stock setup of the big rig here, and go straight out the back. The only thing I did change, however, is I added a guide here on the gear track, which works out pretty good. And then we can talk about the anchor here. As far as the actual anchor goes, this is simply just a window weight that I had some heavy duty heat shrink tubing that I put over it, and then just added a clip there. Don't ask me how, but I have avoided losing this thing, and it has held my fat ass in the types of currents that you wouldn't believe. One thing I do want to talk about real quick is a tool that I don't see many people using that I didn't even really consider until I found one. And since I've been using this thing, I've completely fallen in love with it. I know that there's a couple different manufacturers that make these, but what this is this particular one is called a holds tight brush anchor. And like I said, there's other manufacturers that make these, but I am literally obsessed with this thing when I'm out on the water because I can clamp onto anything. I've held on to metal, I've held on to stumps, I've held on to tree branches, everything. And I simply just use the rope that's on there and I hook it up to the dog bone and I'm secure as can be. Okay, so you got an update on, you know, how I'm running this thing versus the last time. If you've noticed, a common theme is, for the most part, it's efficiency and simplicity. When I got this thing, you know, in my first video, you know, the phase that everyone goes through where they literally just pile on everything they possibly can onto their kayak. You know, look back at my video, even I did it. I'm like, oh, here's my, I got my cooler back here, my tripod's in the back, I got my plasma TV up front. I'm just trying to figure out where to put my fireplace. Everyone does it. It's what people do when they buy a fishing kayak. And you should do that, because as you're using your kayak, you're gonna figure out, okay, what works for me, what doesn't work, what's a necessity, what can I drop. You kind of whittle down that list of the things that you really like. So I fully support that. When you get your kayak, I think you should pile on as much stuff as you possibly can, because mark my words, within a month or two, you're gonna start taking stuff off and you're gonna whittle it down to the necessities, because, you know, at the end of the day, you pretty much just want what you need and that's it, because everything else is just something to get in the way. The other thing I want to quickly talk about is the number one thing on the water should be safety. I'm using a Stolquist PFD, and when I was in the market for a PFD, what I wanted to do was purchase a life jacket that I knew was going to become a tool for me. And, you know, because if you buy something that becomes a tool, it encourages you to actually use it. It becomes a necessity to use it. And, you know, I know some of these can get hot on hot summer days, but the bottom line is you never know the scenario that's going to happen, and it's one of those things where you're going to wish you had it when you need it. All right, guys, so that's the main update. If there's anything else that I missed that you want me to go over, I'd be happy to do that. If you want more information on this camera setup, let me know and I can show you that as well. Yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.